One of my first compositions went through 20 different versions before the final was released. And in this video, I'm going to show you the different changes that occurred in every version of this song, starting with version 1. Before this video begins, I would highly recommend listening to the release song here on this channel, as this video contains spoilers. The link is in the description. The MBB Orchestral version first started being created in December 2023 with what I'm calling the pre-version. It dealt with the bare bones of the project, containing the intro, the first build-up, the first climax, and the end of the final version of the song. Another thing to note was that it was created in LMS, the software I used to create my 8-bit hotel, haunted, and motel albums. However, it used sound fonts that included realistic sounding instruments. The project would later be moved to MuseScore with version 1. In version 1, we fast forward to about January 2025, where I decided to give the project another go after 1 or 2 more failed attempts before it. These failed attempts were mostly just recreations of the pre-version with slight changes to try and fit music theory rules, which they didn't do at all. So I decided to come at the project with a different approach, a slightly bigger understanding of music theory, and some inspiration. That inspiration being some songs I had performed in previous years, including Incantation and Dance by John Barnes Chance and All I'm a Show by Andrew Boss. So, in version 1, the bare bones are introduced. The intro of the song was made with new chords to try and fit music theory rules more, which they kind of do. Some bits don't, but are used to add some dissonance to the music. After the first minute, we get into the next section where the percussion starts to build up, which was in the pre-version but was altered to make it better. After that, it introduces the melody in the bassoon, which I accidentally made sound like the Oompa Loompa song. The rest of version 1 continues to build up the section with the melody, as the main idea overlaps in the bassoon, oboe, and alto sax. These ideas continue as more backgrounds continue to build up the song until we reach the first climax, which is introduced in a later version. For the most part, version 1 has the most changes in the song, as it introduces a lot of new elements not previously used. So, to keep this video from being 5 hours long, I'm going to do multiple versions at the same time that had the same ideas attached to them. For version 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, I mostly worked on finishing the first build-up and started fleshing out the first climax. Before starting the climax, I added some extra backgrounds to the first build-up, including a horn interjection, an alto sax and flute trill, and a 30-second note climb in the clarinets because they can definitely play that. After that, I also added the sound that I deemed as the trumpet alarm sound, before working on the basics of Climax 1 inspired by the pre-version. I also added a small little silent section in the middle to make it sound a little different from the pre-version. However, the climax didn't hit nearly as hard as I'd liked it to, so I increased the volume on the melody and a few backgrounds. After that, I added this small little 6/8 section, which brings the volume back down again. To finish the first climax section off, I changed a bit of the instrumentation with the quieter section, as my band director told me that it was boring and needed some new instrumentation. And I also added a small build-up going to the next section. After that, I made the end have a big retardando and fermata, and I also made the start of the 6/8 section bigger instead of going immediately soft again. Versions 8 and 9 mostly work on the lyrical section. I added the first 16 measures to the lyrical section during these versions, and not much else. In the next versions, I decided to make the biggest change I had made so far. I decided to change the sound fonts from the MS Basic to Muse Sounds, which has more realistic sounding instruments. I would say this is the best decision that I made in the creation of this project and will impact all other compositions I make in the future. The only problem with the new sound fonts was how it messed with the volume. So in versions 10, 11, 12, and 13, I mainly focused on balancing the audio issues with some extra changes. I finished the lyrical section and added glockenspiel. Then I decided to add tubular bells to the beginning, which would also be used in a later section, and then I added suspended cymbals to the lyrical section to finish it off. In versions 14 and 15, I started writing the second build-up area, where the bass trombone plays the pedal notes and the trombones join in later. This area has to be one of my favorite parts of the song, as it adds the horn rip and trill, which are really cool to me. In version 16, I finished writing the second build-up by adding the low brass groove area. I then started and finished writing the second climax where all the instruments play the same thing. Finally, I started the third build-up, which is where it goes quiet again and has arpeggiating notes in the clarinets, alto saxes, and flutes. In versions 17 and 18, I continued and finished the second build-up by continuing the arpeggiating a little differently and by adding the chords that built into the end of the song. In version 19, I finished the rest of the song by creating the end, inspired by the pre-version of the song. After showing the project to a few of my friends and my band director, I was recommended to add a quiet section in the middle of the first climax. I was told the sudden change from loud to soft to loud again felt like getting whiplash. So to fix this, when it went quiet, I made it longer and made it slowly build into the loud section again, which was a change I also really enjoyed. At this point, the project was basically finished, with version 20 only changing some dynamics in the horns at the end of the piece. Overall, that was how I created the MBB Orchestral version in 20 different versions. I'm going to try and do more videos like this and some extra videos in the future, so subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.